Good evening, dear subscribers. I'm so happy to see you tonight, and Serge is here with you again. And today we're covering a very important topic, which is learning new words or just talking to your students. And what I wanted to emphasize today is that when you teach your students, especially new words, you have to pronounce them very carefully, because pronunciation means a lot and they need to understand and grasp exactly what vowel and consonant sounds this word consists of in order to understand how exactly to pronounce it. My very recent example is that I was going through the movie A Peaceful Warrior. It's a beautiful movie that we already talked about in my community. And this movie contains a lot of nice words and expressions. I have a worksheet for that movie. I'm going to attach it to this video down below as well, so you can go through those words. Maybe some of you are going to watch this movie and you're going to pay attention to these words. So some of the words were unfamiliar to the student, and she had a hard time pronouncing them, and I had explained the meaning of some words, and especially if it's a phrase or an expression that contains many words, you have to be very careful pronouncing each one separately and then all of them together, so the expression sounds like one line and inseparable, and the student understands how to pronounce it and which words to emphasize. For example, there was the word sprain, and you have to pronounce it slowly for the student so she hears how to pronounce it. Sprain. Then there was a word casualty, and the student didn't look that word up in the dictionary that I advised to, Merriam-Webster, and so I had to look it up and explain that a casualty is a person that sustained some sort of an injury, a fatal or non-fatal injury during an accident or some natural disaster. So you have to pronounce it casualty, casualty. So the student hears that the first vowel sound is a, short a, as in words apple or fat, and there's a sound j, a consonant sound, and the very last sound is a vowel sound e, as in words lean, mean, casualty. So you have to emphasize every sound to make it very distinct and understandable for the student. Also the word, for example, pommel horse, another word from this movie, and you have to emphasize it's pommel. Pommel, O in the closed syllable in American English is pronounced as an open ah sound, and this needs to be emphasized and understood by the student. Also, there was a very interesting expression, the right leverage, meaning doing things at the right place, in the right place at the right time. So it's pronounced as leverage in American English. I think British is leverage, but we are more keen on American English. So in this case, it's leverage, and you pronounce it very slowly so the student follows you. Leverage. See, phonetics is pretty important. If you miss something here or go wrong with pronouncing a word, that can end up with student memorizing it incorrectly, which can lead to some trouble. Also, there were phrases like there's never nothing going on, or to be off for one hell of a streak. These phrases contain several words, so you have to pronounce them very distinctly, emphasizing which words are the content words in each of the phrases. And especially this phrase, there's never nothing going on. This phrase has a double negative, which is not very usual and sort of strange for the English language, which can be considered a mistake, but in the speech of native speakers you can sometimes encounter such things. So you pronounce it for the student very closely and very attentively, like there is never nothing going on. There's never nothing going on. or to be off for one hell of a streak. This was when Dania wasn't feeling very good, and he fell off the rings and said to his coach, "I'm off for today." And the coach was angry at him and replied, "Well, you've been off for one hell of a streak." And you have to, when teaching such expressions to students, pronounce them very slowly. You've been off for one hell of a streak. One hell of a streak. So the student really sees how each word is pronounced. There are some other more difficult words that that a student could have a difficulty with, like folks with a mute L sound where L is not pronounced, or the word femur. Femur is a medical term. That's like a hip bone, a bone that goes from pelvis to knee, and you have to emphasize that this is the word femur, and the plural form of this word is femora, which is an unusual plural form, and the adjective is femoral. And another expression is rehab process. And a rehab process, the first word is pronounced rehab, which is short for rehabilitation, but in a shortened version, you pronounce the H sound, rehab. And also emphasize when watching an American movie that some types of pronunciation are exactly American, and in other dialects they might be different, like process. This word is pronounced process in American English, but in British and by some Canadian speakers it can be pronounced as process. So giving your student more options and more variants, even if you're specialized in a certain accent of the English language, that's another very good advantage. So this was it for today. That's the point that I wanted to drive home, that when you teach students some unfamiliar words or expressions, you have to pronounce them slowly and make sure you pronounce them correctly so your students don't have any difficulties later on. Thank you for your attention. This was your Serge. I hope to see you soon with more interesting videos to come. Subscribe to my group. Thank you very much.